So this video is to help you write an introduction for your essay. We're going to be doing an introduction here for a literary analysis essay, but really this format's going to work for any essay that you write. I recommend using Google Docs to write your essay just because it saves and you can work on it anywhere. And I find it's easier to use on the iPad than on, it's easier to use than Pages. So the first thing that you need to do is go to your Google Drive and make sure that you're logged into your MyPanthers account. That way you can share it with your peers easier and you can share it with me more easily. So I'm going to make sure I'm in my MyPanthers account. And now that that's loaded, I'm just going to create a new document. And when that gets loaded, the first thing that you should do anytime you're creating a document is title it. For this, I'm just going to title it Sample Lit Analysis Introduction. That way I always know exactly what it is when I open it up. So before we start typing, we need to make sure that our essay is in MLA format so we don't have to worry about that later. MLA format is really, really easy and it's really basic, and anytime you do writing for this class or for any of your other classes, you really should be using MLA format unless your teacher tells you otherwise. So what that means is you need to be in Times New Roman and you need to be in size 12-point font. There is no reason to ever change those settings. That includes your title. Your title needs to be in Times New Roman 12-point font. Should not be bolded or underlined or anything like that. Just basic Times New Roman 12-point font. And then the last thing that we need to do is make sure that this is double spaced. And we're going to put our heading on here. So the first thing you do is write your name. And then you hit enter. You just hit enter once. You don't need to hit it 2 or 3 times, just the one time. And the second thing that you add is going to be your teacher's name. My English teacher in high school was my mother, so I'm going to write Mrs. Cassidy. And just once again, hitting that enter button one more time. And the class that I had her for was Intro to Public Speaking. So you're going to write the title of our class right now. And then you're going to hit return one more time, and this is where we're going to put the date. We're going to write the date the European way, which is the date that something is due. So I'm just making up a date, we'll say the 10th of September 2019. Again, 10th of September 2019. You're going to put the month second. Then we're going to hit enter. And we're going to center it, and this is where we're going to put our working title. And that working title can change. It doesn't need to stay the same throughout the essay. It should not be literary analysis essay, or Secret Life of Bees essay, or research essay. It should be something a bit more interesting than that. Often quotes or character nicknames or something like that would work. So I'm going to write is love truly unconditional, and analysis of love and acceptance in the Secret Life of Bees. And I'm going to make sure that the title of that novel is italicized because it's always going to be italicized. When we're typing, there's no need to underline and there's no need to put quotation marks around the title of a novel. It's always italicized when we're typing. So now that we have that, I'm going to take us out of italics, and I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to re-left align it. Don't forget, anytime that we start a new paragraph, you need to indent. If you're using a computer or your iPad, you're going to hit the tab button, or sometimes it's labeled indent. It's what this button right here looks like. So where it says increase indent, that's what you would hit. You do not hit the space bar 5 times. You need to indent or hit tab. So now we're going to start our introduction, and it's important to have a really great introduction because oftentimes we can tell what the quality of your essay is going to be based on your introduction. If you seem really confused and vague and unclear about what you're writing in your intro, the rest of your essay is likely to be like that. So we need to have a clear focus on our introduction. When we start our introduction, we're going to start with, I'm going to call it an attention grabber. You might call it a hook. Both are the same. You can use them interchangeably. So you can have many different types of attention grabbers. I'm going to use what's called a vignette. It's like a little story or something that happens to you. And what that does is it kind of makes the writing feel more personal. You can use a quote or questions or facts. I don't find those to be as effective, but you can do whatever works for you, and you can always change it. So I'm just going to write something about like siblings, because I know I want to focus on siblings. Everyone has done it. Screamed and hit a sibling in a moment of rage. So if you read that, you'd be like, heck yeah, I've done that. I do that to my cousins too. It doesn't need to be long. Already you get a picture of yourself or the writer in your head doing that action. So after that attention grabber, you need a transition. So you need to link that idea of siblings and rage to whatever the rest of your essay is going to be about. I'm going to counter that and say, however, in the novel The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd, and I'm going to italicize this, the Calendar Sisters never really exhibit these qualities. So I'm connecting it to this moment of rage, I'm connecting it to siblings, but I'm saying it doesn't apply to them. So that's going to be my transition. And you can see that I included the title and the author in there, so that's one less sentence that I have to write. So now the next part, how you write it, is kind of up to you. You can put your main points next and then your thesis statement, or you can combine your main points into your thesis statement. I like to have them separate. I think it just is cleaner and looks neater, but you can do it however you want. The sisters show that not all siblings need to express themselves through anger and violence. Instead, these sisters exemplify acceptance for one another. They push each other to their limits, and above all, show readers what true forgiveness looks like. The three sisters in The Secret Life of Bees show the theme, love is truly unconditional. So I've got my 3 main points. I know that I'm going to talk about acceptance, so that's going to be a paragraph. Pushing each other to the limits is going to be a second one. And true forgiveness is going to be the third one. So within that, I can have a few examples, but each of my topic sentences needs to have something to do with this language that I put here in my introduction. And then my thesis statement is the 3 sisters in The Secret Life of Bees show the theme, love is truly unconditional. I'm going to make sure that I italicize this. So that thesis statement could be beefed up a little bit. It could be made a little bit better, but for right now, since this is just a draft, we're not going to worry about it. We can add to that information later if we need to, but it'll work just fine. So there's an introduction. You can see it, the whole thing with the heading takes up not even half a page. I would say half a page for all of this should be your max, because there's nothing worse than reading a really long introduction, especially if your paper's only 3 or 4 pages long. So that's it. Again, steps in an introduction: you need an attention grabber, a transition, your title and the author, main points, and your thesis statement. Feel free to Schoology message me or shoot me an email if you have any questions, or talk to me in class.